Good morning everyone, and welcome to this morning's sunrise drive here in the Sabi Sands, South Africa. We're on Nkuhuma Private Game Reserve and we've got off to an incredible start. Would you believe it? We actually heard these lions calling this morning as we dropped off all the crew in the final control room this morning, and it didn't take us long to find them. So very happy and lucky, I guess, to start off after having a few days leave to come back to such a beautiful site like this. So very happy to see the Nkuhuma pride of lion, which are 8 lion. We can only see 6 in the current shots in the background, but Andrew, who's on camera this morning, will now show you one of the other individuals. He's kindly getting up now and moving into view. But it looks like it's going to have a quick stretch before then, and it decided to lie down. And then, as I was saying, there's 6 members basically directly ahead of us. And then 1 female who looks like one of the adult lioness within this pride, lying up a little bit away from the rest of the pride. And they haven't moved very far from where they were found yesterday afternoon with Mark at Twin Dams. Here we are, like I said, very close to the final control room and just behind or just south of the Vuyatela Dam. So sadly, they didn't pop into the view of the waterhole camera last night, I don't think, but they were very close, and at some stage today may head down to the waterhole for a drink. But at the moment, as you can see, they are all very relaxed, and I'm told that they have been feeding on a buffalo sometime yesterday or the day before, so they are still fairly full-bellied from a large meal, and when they are full-bellied they are less inclined to move huge distances in search of food, and that's why they haven't moved too far in the course of last night. And Nikki and Tara are in the final control room this morning. And like I said, Andrew's on camera. It's always so wonderful getting back to the bush after having a few days away. And it's been interesting to note the fairly significant changes in the vegetation after the 2 downpours of rain that we've had in the last week. And there's already a kiss of green, especially on these open grassy areas that we're starting to notice. So it's good news for the herbivores, as they're going to have a little bit of extra food. It was very dry before we did get these last 2 downpours of rain. Well, as you can see, they do have their heads up and are listening a lot to the sounds around them. We've had zebra calling nearby in the quarantine clearings that got their attention, and I also heard the hyena den site. Well, I'm fairly certain it is the hyena den site, but certainly hyena calling in that direction, so it might be worth us heading across there at some stage. But certainly worth spending a bit more time with these lion. There's 2 more vehicles arriving into the sighting at the moment. And it's a crisp, cool morning. It's 16 degrees Celsius or 61 degrees Fahrenheit with a humidity of 86%. Very pleasant morning to be out, and you would have noticed we've got 8/8 cloud cover, so it's a cloudy day, but we'll see how long that lasts. It can often change as the sun comes out. It may burn off these clouds. And now that you can see 1 lioness up and moving, you'll notice that she does have a full belly. And like I said, it's believed to be a buffalo that they had last fed on. Mark told me that there was a hyena seen coming out of the area where they were eventually found with a hyena, with a buffalo's leg. Morning, Texan, go ahead. Negative, I haven't seen them. Just the Nkuhumas that I've noticed. So Texan, one of the other guides, asked if there were any of the large males from the Matumba coalition in this area, and I was just letting him know that I hadn't seen them. What is this lion is so interested in up ahead there? She does seem to be...
There's a bird on the floor.
Oh, is it a bird? She could be stalking a... Oh, it's just that virtual starling, it looks like. And they can be very playful. And even though it's got a very small chance of catching that bird, it appears like it is going to possibly try. So let's watch closely. Any small movement will trigger their natural instinct to chase prey down, even if it is the smallest of animals. And in the past I've seen lion even being intrigued by small animals like mongoose and tortoises, but this one now has decided against the initial plan to chase down that little starling. I've just got a message through from the final control mentioning that there have been a lot of reviewers welcoming me back, and thank you very much for your warm welcomes. It is hard during the course of the day. And I'm almost certain that they're going to be found in this general area for the course of today and into this afternoon's drive, which will certainly help me in planning what to do this morning. Like I said, they are still quite full bellied and we are not expecting too much action from them. However, if some buffalo head into this area, they could well show some interest in taking them down. And it was just a few weeks ago that the same pride of lion was found in the same area, and Brent sat with them for about 2 hours, and they did absolutely nothing really in those 2 hours. But eventually some buffalo arrived onto the scene, and then we were treated to an incredible sighting of them sneaking up on the buffalo and eventually essentially being taught a lesson by the buffalo, as they are very hard animals to bring down, especially during the daylight hours when the lion lack the cover of darkness. But that could happen a little bit later on. It usually, well, the buffalo usually arrive at the waterhole a little bit later on in the morning once it's heated up, and on a cool day like today, I'm not sure if they're going to be arriving anytime soon. So I think it might be worth us heading off in a little while and seeing what the hyenas are up to, because like I said, I did hear some audio coming from the area of their den site, and they might be a little bit more active than these lion. Now, for any of you who may be joining for the first time, welcome on board, and just to let you know, you can ask questions at any stage, and to do that you would hashtag Safari Live on Twitter or send an email through to questions@wildearth.tv. Andrew's just spotted an African Harrier hawk flying past.
I think there were two of them.
Were there two? There could well have been. I only saw the one. And quite interesting that a bird of prey has got up so early in the morning. They often wait until the ground is heated up and hot air thermals rise up off the earth, making it easier for them to fly. But that one's obviously hungry and wanting to start its morning foraging a little bit earlier than normal. It's wonderful to have some lion back on the property. Before I left last week, Friday, we had been only treated to a few glimpses of the lion as they crossed through corners of our property, but now we've got this pride right in the heart of Nkuhuma, which makes for great prospects, at least for today and this afternoon's drive. And it really is interesting to note the changes in their behavior depending, especially on where they move and how their territories not vary, but the time that they spend in various parts of their territory varies. And there's two main contributing factors that will cause them to move differently through their territory. One is the presence of other lion in the area, and another very important factor is food. And it appears like there's a lot of buffalo further to the north, large this pride of lion, but other prides of lion as well. And I think that's why they did spend a fair amount of time away from us over the last few weeks. Very happy to have them back though. It's always interesting to note how they move around when they are not highly active like this, and what causes these small movements of them. There's no real change in temperature, which is often a reason why they will move into shadier spots, but they still, every now and then one will get up and move a few meters. And as much as we watch them and try and learn and understand what causes their behavior, a lot of our questions will remain unanswered, and only they will know the answer to, which also keeps things interesting for us out here, because as much as we may think we get to know these animals, they always surprise us with their movements. Oh, well, Andrew chose a very good time to pan across to that lioness, and she
Super lucky.
just performed a small yawn for us. She looks like one of the adult lioness within the pride, and it's two older lioness with 3 sub-adults and two smaller cubs, and then the one 3-year-old male is probably there and thereabout now, that make up this pride. They're a formidable pride, 8 lions in total, of which 6 will be able to contribute to the hunting. The 2 smaller cubs are not quite there yet. And they do have the ability to take down buffalo, and if you use that as a measure to gauge how good lions are at hunting, it's the ultimate test where the lion can bring down buffalo. They're a very formidable adversary that can cause a lot of damage to lion, using their horns to throw them away if they get too close to them. And for those of you who were watching this pride of lion attempt to hunt buffalo last time we were here at Vuyatela Dam with myself and Brent, you would have got to see the buffalo really making a fool of the lion, and it does go like that sometimes. We've just got a question through from Lucky One on Twitter. Good morning, Lucky One, and welcome on board with us. Lucky One is interested to know how many adults there are in this pride, and there's 2 mature lioness with 3 slightly younger sub-adults, 2 even smaller cubs that are just on a year of age, and then one young male who's around 3 years of age now. So a mixed batch of ages within the pride, as there often will be in prides, and I'm just going to take this opportunity to reposition. It looks like they are going to all start moving. I just want to make sure we're in a good spot for that. We could, if we are lucky, get to see them playing. When they do move around, if the whole pride does get up now, it may induce a little bit of playful activity amongst them, so that's something we can hope for now. Just got a question through from Ellen in Illinois. Good morning, Ellen. Ellen is interested to know whether the lions and wild dog will get thicker coats during the winter and whether they'll shed their fur during the summer. And there's certainly maybe small differences, but it's not noticeable to us. well, I certainly haven't noticed any considerable changes in their fur relative to the summer and the winter. But there may be a very small change that is not noticeable to us. It is a very good question though, Ellen, because the temperatures vary greatly from summer to winter, and I certainly wouldn't want to be walking around out here without a lot of warm clothing during the winter. It can be crispy, crispy cold evenings. We've just got a question through from Laura in Indiana. Good morning, Laura. Laura's interested to know whether these lions have TB, and if they do, how it affects them. And most of the lion in this area will be infected with tuberculosis, and they get this from the buffalo that they feed on. And it will affect them, but usually only in times of difficulty. So you may notice that young cubs within prides will have small protrusions or kind of growths on their elbows, and it's more noticeable on them than the adults because they are often the ones that get less food than the adults. So it's an example of how when it is not the most favorable conditions for lions, their symptoms of TB will show, and occasionally if prides are unlucky enough, it can really affect them negatively when they are going through a tough spell of hunting. But at the moment this pride all seem very healthy, and thankfully the TB that they do have is not affecting them greatly. The birds are really beginning to wake up now, and Andrew just a few moments ago panned across to a magpie shrike, and that's one of the birds you can hear calling now. But there's also starlings and francolins that are adding to the morning chorus. We've just got another question through from Eileen, and to all of you who are sending questions through, thank you very much. Eileen is asking whether it's typical for a pride of lions just to have one male in it, like this pride does. And no, that's not necessarily the case, Eileen. Actually, in this case, it's interesting because he's not the dominant male, even though he is fairly sizable. He's one of the sons of the lioness that we are watching. And in the coming months, I'm fairly certain he is going to be kicked out of this area by his fathers. They've accepted him within their territory because he is young. But you may have noticed that on the opening shot he did actually try and mount one of the other lioness, which was possibly his mother. So he is becoming more sexually active, or sexually interested at least. And this won't be tolerated by his fathers for obvious reasons, because it wouldn't do any good for the gene pool for him to be mating with any of his family. And that is how nature naturally ensures that males will move out far away from their family pride before they become sexually active. And more often than not, it's the prides of lioness that occur together. Oh, look at this. This is what I was hoping for a little bit earlier. But as I was saying, Eileen, it's usually the females that band together and create prides of lioness, and the males will also often band together with brothers and form coalitions of males. And depending on how big the coalition of males may be, they may acquire a territory which is very large and have 3 or 4 or possibly even 5 prides of lioness within their big territory. So the males will compete with males for territory, the females will compete with other prides of females for their territory, and if a coalition of males is lucky enough to acquire a big territory with lots of prides of lioness, they won't necessarily stay with the lioness. It's more important for them to move around and make sure that no other males are trespassing on their turf. And to be able to make sure that there are no trespassers, it means that they can't just stay with one pride of lion, and will move around a lot, stopping in with the ladies when either they're in season or when there's food around. If there's no food or no mating opportunities, the males would rather be elsewhere. And it's typically 2 males that we see with this pride. 2 big males from the Matimba coalition, who was initially a coalition of 4. Now there's one lion that's seen something. It's one of the youngsters, but let's have a closer look and see what it is that's got its attention. It's very thick in the direction they're looking in, so I can't see anything at this stage. But judging by all the other lions' body language, it may not be something very interesting. Although that looks like it could be an adult now that's showing a little bit more initiative and intent. What could it be that they've seen? There's very good cover for them to stalk here, and they are heading onto the fringe of a thicket, which will provide them, like I say, with great cover. And let's see what it is that's coming their way. The squirrels just caught the message that there's some lion here, and that's the noise you can hear in the background. It's a tree squirrel alarm calling. Well, that's not going to help their hunting, because whatever it is that is approaching this open clearing is now going to have heard the squirrels alarming and be on extra high alert. Now, we can't see too much from here, but I am confident that we could get into a position where we can see a little bit better without interfering on what's going on here. So bear with me for a second. We'll just keep a very wide berth, and like I say, make sure we don't impact on whatever's about to happen here. But I would like to get us into a position where at least we can see what's going on. body language seems to have decreased in purpose, but they are still listening and looking into the vegetation. But as Andrew is showing us now, it's thick and very difficult to see. Again, a good example of how much better their senses are than ours. Even in this thick vegetation, they can often sense animals coming, and it would be their hearing, I'm sure, that alerted them to this potential prey, not necessarily their sight. The wind is blowing from the lion towards us, so it's in their favor for now. And possibly they could have smelt something. And like I said a few moments ago, it can be that when you're sitting watching lions sleeping, that something interesting stumbles upon them, and then all of a sudden you've got yourself an incredible sighting. So they may not necessarily be actively hunting, but an opportunity might present itself to them. And that's why it's often difficult to leave sightings like this, because you know by hanging around you, anything could arrive in this general area. There is a waterhole very close to us, and as it does become dry as we go into winter, a lot of animals will frequent the waterholes, and the lions certainly know this. And maybe that's why they decided to yesterday spend their whole day based at Twin Dams, and now today it appears that they'll be at Vuyatela Dam. We've just got a question through from Rena on Twitter. Good morning, Rena. Rena would like to know, how much longer will it take before the sub-adult male in this pride gets kicked out? And it's difficult to say, Rena, because the personalities and relationships with their fathers will all vary between lions and their male cubs. But anywhere from the age where he's at now, he could expect to start getting some pressure to move out. I'm actually quite surprised that he hasn't started getting more pressure. He is at an age where he is becoming more sexually active and beginning to explore mating even with its mothers and sisters. So it's showing all the signs that it's not going to be accepted or tolerated much longer. But only time will tell, and won't it be interesting to see that event unfold? It is incredible how harsh nature can be, because his fathers would be loving and caring only up to a point where they'll turn completely on him and then chase him away. But it's a necessity out here, and it'll be far more useful for the greater good of all lions for him to head off and spread his genetics in a different area, and not with either his mothers or his sisters. So it's nature's way of just ensuring that there's genetic diversity between the different prides of lion. The tricky thing for this individual is that he's got no brothers, and if he did have brothers, they would all be kicked out together, and that way at least have some safety in numbers as they go out on their way. But he will be all alone, which makes for obviously much harder hunting, and not only hunting alone, but also he'll have to defend himself against other dominant males that he comes across in the coming years. you'll often find young male lion that are either alone or in small coalitions, but inexperienced, you could say, will fly below the radar and slink through territories of larger males without vocalizing, without scent marking, trying as best as they can to be undetected, and that way avoid any trouble. Well, now I think what we should do is possibly head off and see what else is going on. It's always a difficult decision to make, because just like we saw their body language earlier certainly indicated that there was something potential prey moving in the general area, and if they did come close enough to the lion, we would be able to see the lions chase whatever it was that it may be that they're interested in hunting. But in the same breath, there's no guarantee that anything is going to come. So I am leaning towards heading off and seeing what else is out there. There's great prospects to potentially come back here later if we hear any radio updates of buffalo moving into the area. And certainly this afternoon's drive is going to provide some good opportunities to view these lions, so it might be most worthwhile for us to head off and go and look for something else and make the most of all the other animals and exciting opportunities that there are out here for us to enjoy. I think the lion have been a great start, but I'm interested to head over to the hyena den site and see what's going on, because all the lion now are fast asleep. Morning, Ryan. How are you doing? Thank you very much, sir. I'm not copying you too well, sadly. Oh, wow, look at this. Going to try and find a gap. Please don't fly away. Well, that was the African Harrier hawk. I'm just going to reverse a little bit. Hopefully we can still watch it hunting. There we go. So this is the same bird that Andrew spotted a little bit earlier as it flew past, and it's actually actively hunting. Now, the interesting thing about this bird is that it's got the ability to disjoint its legs in order to search in cavities in the trees. Now let's watch closely, and we're going to hopefully see it dangling around, trying to get its talons into small cavities within this old marula tree. And you often see them hanging upside down with one foot as they use the other leg to search these cavities for any snacks. It could be small mammals living in the cavities of the tree, even small reptiles, and often baby birds. And you can see it's actively searching for a hole. So this is a highly specialized hunter, and will acquire almost all of its prey from cavities within trees. And you can see it's certainly not its first time clambering around looking for these holes. And let's hope we get lucky and it finds one, because it can be really entertaining to watch them, as they do have to often twist and contort and get into some fairly precarious positions in order to get their talons into the holes. Doesn't seem to be having much luck on this marula tree. It looks like it's found a hole there. No. I thought the way it had landed almost upside down there, that it had found a hole. I'm going to try and stay with this bird for as long as we can, and even though it's just flown off, it probably hasn't gone far. It's probably just gone to the next tree, and it's very rare for us to see them actively hunting. So I'm going to try our best to make the most of the situation and see if we can't get a glimpse of it digging into the cavity of a tree. Where has it gone now? Flew down in this direction. Couldn't see exactly where it landed, but we're just going to have a quick look around, and if we don't have any luck finding it, we will continue with the plan that I was initially hoping to go ahead with, and that's to go and see what's happening at the hyena den sites. There was a lot of audio coming from there a little bit earlier this morning. Sadly, it looks like the African Harrier hawk has flown a little bit too far for us to find him, and I've got no idea where it is now, so we will continue. But great to see that. It's the first time I've managed to share with you the behavior of that bird. We very often see them flying from A to B, but seldom get to show you them searching for their food. Next time, hopefully, you'll be able to see them clambering in these holes looking for food. And they do have the incredible ability to be able to disjoint their legs. They've got double jointed legs that can twist and contort in order to get their talons deep into the cavities within the trees. Any stations at the Mpisikaya? Okay, well, just for interest's sake, it's nice to know that the lions came down through this area. I'm trying to find some clear tracks, but I can't see their tracks coming towards us on this road. They obviously came here before they headed down to the small clearing where we saw them a bit earlier. Oh, here we go. So on the left-hand side of the road, Andrew should be able to hopefully show you some of the lion tracks. There we go. So not very easy for you to see, but those are the lion paws coming towards us. And it's so useful for us to take a close look at our bushveld news, which gets left on the road networks for us. Great updates for us to be able to follow and then be able to track down lion and leopard and all the other animals. It's a critical part of finding animals in this area, tracking them down, and it's these footprints in the sand that help us to do that. It's not the only thing we can use. This morning we were lucky enough to hear the lions roaring, and that made it a little bit easier than tracking them down, that's for certain. question through from Sherry in Ohio. Good morning, Sherry, and welcome. Sherry's interested to know whether the African Harrier hawk that we've just been viewing would have good color vision, or would it see in black and white? And in all likelihood it's going to have good color vision, and the reason for that is that most of the daytime animals, basically animals that spend their time out hunting during the day or just living during the day, will have good color vision. They'll have more cones in their eyes than rods, and those are the two main parts that will build up the color viewing part of your eye. The color you get to see is received into your cones, and therefore the daytime animals will often have more cones than rods. Nocturnal animals like lion and leopard, for example, not necessarily strictly nocturnal, but animals with good night vision, will have more rods than cones, and those rods will allow them to have good, great nocturnal vision, but it comes with a sacrifice in that they will see in black and white. So most of your daytime animals and birds of prey like the African Harrier hawk will have better color vision. Although that specific bird of prey won't rely on seeing prey from a different distance, like a lot of other birds of prey that may hunt and hawk their prey from far up in the sky. A lot of the African Harrier hawk's prey will be hidden in the cavities of trees. Therefore, it's more important just to find the little holes in which to dig its claws into, as opposed to spotting the actual prey. So we are now arriving at the hyena den sites. In the next minute or so we'll know whether we are in luck. There's a fork-tailed drongo sitting very close to the road, and it seems quite relaxed, so we'll take this opportunity to show you a close-up image of this bird. You can also see that there's a slight breeze this morning, and both the bird and the leaves are getting blown around a little bit. It's a bird we often see following the large herbivores like elephants and buffalo, as when those large animals move through the bush, they chase up little insects, and it makes for easy prey for these fork-tailed drongos. You can see the very distinctive fork in its tail. Occasionally you see them with a double fork, and we have seen one or two of them flying around here. But it's a very clever little bird that has learned to follow the large animals that will flush up little prey species for them. And this is certainly the closest that I've managed to bring you all to one. It seems to be having a small chat with itself. Not sure exactly .
Is this its call, or is it mimicking now?
Well, that's a good question that Andrew's just asked. They've got a lot of different calls that they can make, and they have been known to mimic other birds and even animals. This, I think, is just its own little mumbling murmur to itself that we can hear it doing. When they do mimic other birds or mammals even, it's in order to achieve something. So an example of that would be they may let off the alarm call of a mongoose, for example, and that way all the mongoose will run off and hide, and sometimes drop whatever prey they may be feeding on at the time, and the drongo can then fly down and feed on their kill. Obviously it can't do this every time to the mongoose, every time they get a kill, otherwise they'll wisen up to the drongo. But if it does a combination of actual real alerts, oh, there, it's just hit it off to try and nibble on something, and I'm not sure if it had any luck, but it landed on the road just in front of us there. So it is mainly small insects that they will feed on, like grasshoppers, or any moths or even butterflies that get chased up by the large animals that move around. But in this case, as you can see, it flew down and tried to catch something without the aid of any large animals. So they will use a combination of different hunting techniques, or like I said earlier, they will use the alarm of an animal that they may sometimes help to detect potential predators. Like an eagle, for example, soaring above the drongo could let off the alarm call and help the mongoose and make them aware. But then it could also pull a sneaky maneuver and let off an alarm call when there's nothing actually of threat nearby, and that way be able to steal whatever it is that the mongoose drop in order to retreat to safety. And a lot of the carnivores, be it bird or mammal, will be very wise and also very opportunistic when it comes to getting their food, and sometimes they will take a few moral shortcuts, like stealing from the mongoose, or I guess you could look at lion and leopard. Lion will steal from leopard whenever they get the opportunity. So there's a few kind of unethical maneuvers that some of these animals will perform in order to get their meals. It just flew down and caught a tiny little insect. I couldn't even see what it was. But at least it's having a good morning hunting. I'm going to leave it to its own devices and have a look and see if these hyenas are active. Well, as you can see, we are in luck. And there's quite a few hyenas around. This is a youngster we can see standing up. Well, younger than the larger two that it is next to at the moment. And you can tell this from the colour of its coats and also the darkness of its spots. So its spots are very prominent, and it's got quite a light coat and an immaculate coat, you could say. So it's in great condition, and it's a young one. The older two, which look to be like, well, one's certainly one of the mothers. The other one I don't recognize. The closest one to us is one of the mothers. She's got very raggedy ears. She's the mother of one of the two litters of cubs. There's two different litters of cubs within this den. And as fierce as they can be, they can also be loving and caring. And as you can see, this one was gently licking the leg there. I'm not sure if there was a small wound or what it was exactly that it was licking, but it was showing some affection towards this large female.
And I think there's a youngster.
Yeah, and there was a youngster hiding behind there, and it's busy suckling. It appears to have a full belly, this individual. So they obviously had a good night out last night. I always wonder what they get up to every evening. They cover such large distances and live such interesting lives in the way that they acquire their meals. In this area they will rely a lot on stealing from leopard, which is one of the apex predators in the area, and they are numerous and also not very dangerous for the hyena to steal from. Lion pose a much larger threat and a lot more risk when it comes to stealing food. So the hyena within the Sabi Sands have almost specialized in stealing from leopard, and it's uncommon to see them interacting with lion. And it's also important for me to mention that it's not only stealing that the hyena are good at. They are also formidable hunters, and in certain areas of Africa they've actually done research and they found that lion will steal more from hyena than hyena from lion. So there will be reversed roles in certain areas. It was actually on the Djuma waterhole camera a few years ago that we managed to document hyena hunting. So they also do hunt in this area, and that's certain. They chased an impala into Vuyatela Dam. There's another hyena that's just slinking off in the background there. It could be the other mother, it looked like, and maybe she spent enough time nursing her cubs and is now heading off to relax. Just to remind everyone, it is a live and interactive safari, so if you would like to ask questions at any stage, please send them through on Twitter with hashtag SafariLive, or on email to questions@wildearth.tv. We really do appreciate your questions and love to answer any of your questions that you may have about what we may be seeing. They keep lifting up their heads and listening, and the reason for that is there's this slight breeze this morning, And this breeze is going to confuse animals like the hyena when it comes to detecting any potential threats that would be approaching the den sites. They can often be hearing just the leaves rustling in the grass, and that could get their attention and just make them double check. So we are noticing them lifting up their heads every now and then and listening, but they are just being fooled by the wind, or not necessarily fooled by the wind, but they have to double check that it isn't actually anything dangerous nearby. They certainly would have heard the lion calling this morning, the same lion that we were looking at, and they'll know that they're nearby. I've actually been checking for any tracks of lion around the den sites, because they did come past fairly close by and will sometimes pop in and try and attack hyena at their den sites when they are passing nearby. It doesn't appear to be the case this morning though, or from last night, as I've seen no tracks left on the earth around this den. Virginia on Twitter, good morning. Virginia is interested to know how the fur of hyenas changes during their life. And it is a really interesting sequence of changes. When they are born, they are little black fur balls, completely black, or you could call it a very dark brown, I guess. But a very dark charcoal brown when they are born. And at 3 months of age, they start to develop spots, so their coat lightens, and it will continue to lighten until it looks like the closest hyena towards us, the one on the bottom left of the shot. And you'll notice how it does have a light coat with dark black splotches. And it's also quite a thick, considerable coat. You can almost see a small mane up its spine onto its neck. So this is when they are at their fluffiest and best looking, I feel, at this age. And if we pan across to one of the adults, you'll notice that their fur does seem to thin considerably. So it's not nearly as fluffy, not nearly as light in color, and the spots become a lot less prominent. There's still, I guess, that mane of fur up along the spine, but the rest of the body has got a very, very thin coat when the adults are fully grown. So great for us to be able to see the difference between a sub-adult and a got up, because then we'd be able to show you the coats at probably around 4.5 months of age. I'm guessing the cub that's suckling is at about that age, 4 to 5 months of age. I just heard some good news on the radio. One of the other vehicles managed to get a brief glimpse of what they thought was Karula, who is a female leopard. She was heading into our property around Buffelshoek Dam, so on our northeastern corner of Djuma. She was heading south and west, so heading back towards us, and sadly it's very thick in that area and he's lost visual of her. But she was heading in the right direction, and again, good prospects for possibly later on this morning or even this afternoon. There's been no other sign of leopard this morning, just to keep you all updated. Even though Nkuhuma and Quarantine, two brothers, were very close to our camp last night, where Mark found them, I haven't heard any updates on the radio of anyone having any luck with fresh tracks of them. Well, I'm glad we popped into the hyena den site to check on how they were doing. But just like the lion, they seem to be very, very relaxed. And I think we should head off and search for something that may be a little bit more active and entertaining for us. But we certainly are being spoilt this morning with some great quality sightings of, so far, two of the top carnivores in this area, the lion and the hyena. Oh, here we go. This is what we wanted. Oh, her belly is full. They had a great meal last night. Wouldn't it be interesting to know what they fed on? And look at that cub now. Incredible to believe that just a few months ago it was pitch black. Oh, and it looks like they are taking the stance here and they are deciding to leave as opposed to us deciding to leave. Just going to reposition slightly so we can make the most of the last glimpses we have of them. But it could be now that the adults are wanting to move off and get a little bit of peace and quiet now that they've fed their cubs. And this is common behavior to witness. The adults will come back, nurse the cubs, and then head off for as long as they need a break for, because if they stayed at the den, the cubs would permanently pester them for food and play. Oh, looks like a bit of hierarchy being installed here. That youngster's acting very submissively to the two adults, and you can see they're certainly making it feel a little bit uneasy. And this is common within a hierarchical clan of hyena like this. They will constantly be reinforcing status between the different members of the clans, and the tricky thing for us is that it's very difficult to distinguish between male and female hyenas. And I'm wondering if these two are both males, the two that are head-to-head now on the left of the screen. One is certainly a mother, we know that, because she's just been suckling her cubs, but the two adults we can see now could possibly be males, and maybe the bigger of the two is the dominant male. Let's watch closely here what they're up to. Well, they seem to have diffused and all seems calm now, and it's very often the case. As long as the younger or smaller, less dominant animal acts submissively, and to act submissively means just basically to accept that you're weaker and lower yourself to the ground and act as unconfrontational as possible, the other members will respect that submissive behavior and therefore not attack or hurt the other animal. But they do like to just be shown and reminded that they are lesser than the alpha members. Well, Brenda in Pennsylvania is interested to know why the younger hyena is with the other two large adults, and it's not uncommon for various members of hyena to be, or various ages of hyena to be within the same clan. There'll be various generations that grow up together in their clan or family, and therefore you can expect to get a variety of ages. Just like a pride of lion, it's not just one male and one female that will go off and pair and raise their cubs. It's a whole family, extended family, and that will be a youngster from a previous litter. I think it could be a male, but like I said, it's very difficult to distinguish the sexes of these animals. Oh well, they have headed off. Not very far, but it's very thick where they're lying up now to our left, and they are continuing to go further away. So we will leave them to it. And go and see what else we can find. Leaving the Mpisi Kayad is no longer active. Can any station copy me? Morning, I'm just wondering if there's a final update on the Mafazi ingress unit around Buffelshoek Dam. Confirm Ephraim had a Ingrid at Gari Dam. Go ahead. Okay, copy. Thanks very much, Texan. So, I've just got an update from the other vehicles who are out and about, and I think what our best option will be for our next maneuver would be to head past the lion, because it is on the way to where there is, or where we'll need to look for Karula, who's a female leopard. She was seen heading south away from Buffelshoek Dam, and we'll head into that area, but like I say, we'll head past the lion. On the way there we might find some potential prey animals that come closer towards the lion and may provide us with a bit of action. Failing that, we'll continue into the general area where this female leopard was seen. Like I said a bit earlier, it is very thick in that area where Craig, the other game ranger, saw her, and she could well have moved out of that thick area now and be in an area more accessible to us. We don't see her very often, and I know that she hasn't been seen since I've been gone, and even before I left. I think the last sighting of her was about 10 days to 2 weeks ago, and she is a beautiful female leopard who's got a lot of history behind her, and it's actually her two sons that you would have seen last night with Mark. We're also hoping that she's pregnant again with her next litter, So it'll be great to see her again, to see if there are any changes on her belly. There does appear to be a small little bump on her belly that may be a sign that she's pregnant, but none of us are 100% sure yet. Although, like I say, we haven't seen her for close on 10 days to 2 weeks, and in that time her belly size may have changed considerably. It's a wonderful cool morning. I believe there's been quite a lot of hot weather since I've been gone, and I'm really enjoying this crisp, cool morning. Earlier it was about 16 degrees Celsius, so 61 degrees Fahrenheit, just to give you an idea of the temperature. And now the sun's even beginning to poke out, so it's making for a beautiful morning. The animals are also playing their part, which is useful. Without them, we wouldn't have a show. And this morning, they certainly have been making our lives a lot easier. We started with the lion and went straight to the hyena den, where we got to see a little bit of interesting interaction between the Just notice these impala. They seemed quite flustered as we saw them running straight towards us, and I'm just going to stop and take a moment to listen and watch their behavior. I'm not sure what they were running from, but they certainly appeared to be running away from something. Now, in windy weather like this, the prey animals can be skittish. Just like the hyena were holding up their heads, making sure there were no threats approaching, the herbivores will be very nervous because their sense of hearing basically becomes void to them. Well, it's not that it becomes void, but it becomes an unreliable source of detecting potential predators, because there are so many other noises that they can hear with the dry leaves rustling in the wind. So possibly they're just a little bit nervous because of the wind, or maybe they were being chased by something, but right now it seems to have calmed down, and it was even chewing the cud there momentarily. I was hoping some wild dog were going to pop up right behind them, hot on their heels. Maybe next time. It's so useful for us, or so important for us, to stop and assess scenarios like that, because what may appear to be a relatively small or minor event could actually lead to far greater sightings or implications. And to stop and listen for a minute or two certainly doesn't hurt, and every now and then you do get spoiled with some interesting sightings brought to your attention by what could be overlooked as a random event, like two impala that look a little bit flustered running past. They are quite close to these lions, so that's also something to bear in mind. Not close enough at the moment for anything to happen, but had those impala have run out like they did just ahead of us, they would have run straight into the lions. So again, a good example of how lions can be treated to some very easy opportunities even when they're lying around sleeping. Looks like we've got lucky. These lions appear to be up and about. They could be moving into the shade after this small little bit of sunshine popped out, but again, always hard to know exactly what causes them to move the way they do. Now, for those of you who have just joined more recently, we started off this morning watching these lions. They haven't moved very far. Well, basically they haven't really moved at all. They may have moved a couple of 100 feet since we found them.
You can go back. This is the only one that's bringing me
Not two lions just on our right that are doing a little bit of grooming. So I'll just try and get you into a better spot to see that. Now I can hear some birds alarm calling insistently ahead of us, and I'm wondering what it is that they're alarm calling at. I'm thinking it could be... Oh, there it is. It's the African Harrier hawk doing its hunting. We've got to go. We've got to go. So, apologies, lion, but there's another predator that we need to go and see. And it's that same bird that we saw earlier that's obviously found a cavity in a tree and it's busy trying to fish out whatever it can from there. So, I just want to try and get there as quickly as possible and make sure we don't run over a lion on the way there. That would be terrible, wouldn't it? So we're just going to keep a close eye on the lion and try and get to this as quickly as possible. I can't believe it's happened so soon. We were watching this bird a little bit earlier, hoping to see it hunting, and now it seems to have found a good spot. And there's a lot of smaller birds that are alarm calling and actually mobbing it. I don't want to go too close. This should probably work for now. Straight ahead of us in a knobthorn tree, and look at this. So it's just jumped off the branch where obviously there was a cavity in the tree, and it was hoping to pull out whatever bird or animal is living in that cavity. It doesn't look like it's had any luck. And you'll notice a lot of smaller birds above it. There's red-billed hornbills. Now they could be the owner of the cavity that the Harrier hawk is trying to steal from, as well as starlings. Now we can also expect to see some of the smaller birds bomb diving. There we go. That was actually the hornbill. So it may well be the hornbill's nest that it's trying to steal from, and now it's going to use these long legs that it can double joint and twist and contort in order to get it into these holes in order to pull out prey. Wow, this is interesting. Now, I'm not sure if I can reposition the vehicle. It would be wonderful to see the cavity. Oh, look, there's another one. Another African Harrier hawk's arrived. And you'll notice that it's got its full pink breeding plumage. It's not only breeding plumage, it's plumage that they show when they're excited. And keep a close look, you'll notice its face is pink where the other one was yellow. And that face within just a few seconds can change back to its original yellow color. So that's interesting just to see, but we'll go back to the individual that's currently busy trying to fish out the prey, and you'll notice its face has gone pink now. Now obviously whatever it is that's hiding in there, it could be a young red-billed hornbill, maybe just out of reach of this African Harrier hawk's talons, but it's still trying its best, holding on with one claw and using the other to fish around this cavity in the tree. Now its face has gone back to yellow, which I'm sure you've all noticed. So incredible to see how their coloration can change. The one up there on the tree is still pink. Now, it is interesting that this second Harrier hawk has arrived on the scene. It could be that they're a mating pair, but only one of them can fish into a hole at a time. Oh, look at that one's getting attacked by a fork-tailed drongo as it flies off. Great work on camera there, Andrew.
It looked like it had something in its mouth. Looked like a snake or something.
No, I think you're imagining things, sadly. It's got nothing. It's got nothing there, but we'll leave that one. It seems to be looking for another hole. It may have just been attracted into the area where all the smaller birds were alarm calling. Oh, has it got anything? No, it still seems to be trying to fish out whatever it can from this cavity. I'm going to reposition ever so slightly to see if we can get a slightly better angle. It's so caught up in what it's doing that I don't think we have to worry about it flying away. And I really would like to show you a better angle on what it's doing. It's a bit of a gamble because I'm not sure if we're going to get a clear view, but it's a gamble worth taking, so bear with us. That looks like it's going to work well. Awesome. I think we've got lucky. We've got a small gap, and we can now see exactly what it's trying to do. And it's sticking its leg far up into that hole. And that was a Birchall starling that flew down and attacked it, so it's got a lot on the go there. It's trying its best to fish out whatever it can from that hole, but at the same time it's getting bombarded by these smaller birds. I can't believe how lucky we've got. The fact that we saw it attempting to hunt a little bit earlier, and now just minutes later we get to see it fully in the swing. It must know that there's something in there because it's persisting and is going to continue to try, I hope, until it actually manages to catch something. Shame, how terrifying must this be for the adults, who appear to be the red-billed hornbills, I'm guessing, which are the birds you can see in the frame now. They do nest in cavities and trees.
Why would the starling be helping if they're trying to get a hornbill baby out, if that's the case?
Yeah, Andrew's just asked a good question, and he's wondering why the starling's getting involved and risking any potential injury from this African Harrier hawk if it's not necessarily its chicks. That's because they all band together, and certain birds like starlings are notorious for helping to police larger raptors like African Harrier hawks, and they all band together and help one another. But it is just a show of their personality, I guess, and they are gutsy, brave birds that are often associated in mobbing ceremonies like this. It's often the starlings that are first on call to try and chase off these other prey animals. Them and the fork-tailed drongo, which is the small black bird that we saw chasing off the other Harrier hawk earlier. I've been looking for the other Harrier hawk. There's no sign of it anymore, so it's obviously moved off. But this guy's now back to his initial cavity where he's been searching, and he's sticking his head in to hopefully, I guess, see exactly where the prey is hiding. Wouldn't it be interesting to know how deep that cavity is and how close it is getting to its prey? Those legs are very long, and you'll notice when it sticks that leg up there, it goes a long way. And these legs are highly specialized and adapted for this kind of foraging. And they can double joint and twist and contort in order to be able to get as far into these cavities as possible, but also to not break. And here's the facial plumage changing again. A sign of its excitement. It's gone back to the pink coloration. And this is only something I've been able to show once before, how quickly their facial plumage can change. How awesome. Go ahead for Scots. Good morning, Craig. It's just myself here. You're more than welcome to join. On the southern side. Now, has he given up on that cavity? It is something that they will often have to weigh up, I guess. They may very well know that there's something in there, but how much energy is it worth expending trying to get something out of a hole? It's taking these small breaks or breathers to rest, I guess, and it does keep going back to does seem to keep going back to the same cavity, although now it's almost broadening its horizons and looking for other holes, as it could well have realized that it's not going to have any other luck. Oh, now let's see all of the birds chasing it. Well, it appears that whatever was in that initial cavity has got lucky. It must have been a horrifying start to the day, having these yellow talons clawing at whatever it was inside there. I'm guessing it was some baby red-billed hornbills. They got away luckily, and we still got to see a great show of how they attempt to catch their prey. I'm going to hang around just for a few more minutes though and see what it does next. as this is such a rare occurrence for us to be able to share this kind of a sighting with you. Just got a question through from Jerry in Maryland. Good morning, Jerry, and welcome. Jerry's interested to know if there's potentially a snake within the cavity of that tree. And, oh, a lilac-breasted roller is now getting involved in the attack. Look at this. Awesome. It's incredible how brave these smaller birds are. I guess they know that they're more acrobatic. Oh, that Birchall starling gave it a proper peck on the back of the head there. And as I was saying, the chance of there being a snake in the cavity of that tree is certainly there, but the way that the birds were mobbing the African Harrier hawk makes me feel that it was the birds that were the owner of whatever it was that's in that cavity. And it is mainly baby birds that they will seek out, these African Harrier hawks. I'm sure if there was a snake or a lizard within the cavity, they would happily feed on it. But it is mainly younger birds that are nesting within the cavity of these trees that the African Harrier hawks will seek out. It's now flown across to this marula tree, where it's probably trying to seek a bit of refuge from all of the birds that were alarm calling and mobbing it earlier, and it's probably having a break. It would have been tiring work clambering on the tree as well as digging into that hole at the same time. Wonderful. And Andrew's just done a great job on the camera there. We're gonna probably leave this African Harrier hawk to its own devices now. Although I'm tempted to just go and have one last look at it and see what it does next, because again it is abnormal for us to have such great visuals of these birds. And it's just landed up ahead of us in a marula tree. We'll let it investigate this marula tree for any more potential cavities, and if it manages to find one, then we'll hang around. If not, we'll move off. It's just on the other side of the tree now. Just got a question through from Virginia. Good morning, Virginia, and welcome. Virginia's interested to know why this hawk wouldn't try and attack the adults that were busy mobbing it, the adult birds. And it's simply because they are harder to catch than a young and defenseless chick that's sitting in the cavity of the nest. And the African Harrier hawk is not a very swift bird of prey. So, and it is highly adapted and specialized to pluck prey out of these cavities with their long double-jointed legs. It would be too difficult for that African Harrier hawk to latch onto prey that's just flying around and that's fully grown, like the birds that were mobbing it. It's simply going to be too slow. If it could, it certainly would, but it's not designed to feed on large and fully fledged birds. It's mainly the chicks that are helpless and defenseless, and their main form of protection is their nest, which this specific bird has evolved to be able to get into. And that fork-tailed drongo just followed it off there and gave it a few more unceremonial pecks on the back of the head as it flew off. Chris in South Australia, good morning. Chris is interested to know whether this bird of prey, the African Harrier hawk, is a migratory bird or whether it's here year-round. And thankfully it's one of our common residents, so it's here throughout the year. And any of the migratory birds that are still around at this time of the year won't be here for much longer. They typically would have all moved off by now. We'll have one quick glimpse of the lion just to show you their current state. And that's the young male there, fast asleep on the road. The rest of the pride are lying up in the thicker vegetation to the left of the road, also fast asleep. So I've been keeping an eye on them whilst we got spoilt with the great bird sighting. And I love it when the lion get upstaged by a lesser well-known character out here. And this morning it was the African Harrier hawk that outperformed the lion. So we'll leave them to it. And like I say, good prospects for later on this morning or certainly this afternoon. But I feel that we can have more fun elsewhere this morning, so we're going to head off up towards Buffelshoek Dam and see if we don't have any luck relocating on Karula, which is a female leopard that was seen in the area of Buffelshoek Dam about 45 minutes ago. She disappeared into thick vegetation and now has hopefully come through that thick vegetation. Is going to be in an area where it's easier for us to find her. Failing that, we'll be happy to find any other animals along the way. So Craig's just arriving in the area. He's going to have a quick look at his lion, and we're going to head off to the area where he's just come from. Yeah. Morning, Craig. How are you doing? Thank you very much, sir. How's it going? Yeah, very good, thanks. Very good. Good to be back on a morning like this. It's cooking.
Really? I have no idea what's going on with this radio.
My radio is also causing trouble, so it's not just you.
It's a northern channel. I just got a new radio put in yesterday, so I don't know what.
Sorry, buddy. Well, there was just Karula up at Buffelshoek Dam, which was you, and then Ngala here.
Which BC car is that? The one fully much cut?
Yeah. Cool. Have a good morning, guys.
Yeah. Cheers, man.
Well done. Always good to bump into one of the few but familiar faces that we do get to see out here. And we do get to see a lot of Craig, and we do share sightings with one another. Just like this morning, I guess, we found the lion that he's heading towards, and he found the leopard that we're hoping to go and try and relocate. So a good example of how important it is for us to work together and use the radios. Shame it sounds like his radio was causing a little bit of trouble this morning, but it's a fairly common problem regardless of which wilderness destination you work in. The radios can be a little bit temperamental, so it's something that all of us do get used to with time. It really is incredible to see how the vegetation's changed in just a few days. I'm actually going to reverse and get Andrew to zoom in on this grass just ahead of us here. Now, I left for leave on Friday last week, and it was on Thursday night that we got a downpour of rain, and this was all brown and dead, you could say, the grass, whereas in just a week's time we've noticed this massive change, and there's a lick of green across the carpet that covers Nkuhuma Private Game Reserve. And it's not only the grass that's greened up, also the trees and certain shrubs have also got a new injection of life from the much needed rain that we received a few days ago, which is great prospects, mainly for the herbivores. The predators don't mind if there's drought conditions too much, because it simply means that a lot of their prey will become weak and easier to catch. But the herbivores certainly will be happy with the downpour of rain that we got both Thursday last week, and then again there was another downpour when I was gone. So we've had two decent rain since I've been gone, and much needed. We haven't got nearly as much rain as we would have expected to get this rainy season. Well, there's a cousin of the red-billed hornbill that we saw mobbing the African Harrier hawk in the road here. It's the yellow-billed hornbill. Now, very easy to distinguish between the two. One's got a bright yellow beak, which you can see in front of us, and the other's got a red beak. The red-billed hornbills that we saw earlier, you may have noticed, were a little bit smaller than these, but ever so slightly. And you may have noticed that this hornbill used its beak to ruffle up some of that dung on the ground, and it's a big old buffalo dung that it's opened up with its beak and then proceeded to feed on some of the decomposers that are breaking down that dung, some beetles and insects. They've got a wide diet, these hornbills. They'll feed on small rodents, chameleons, up to tiny little ants and termites, which it looks to be feeding on now. You can see the succession at which it's throwing them into its mouth. It means there must be a lot of them. And its mate has come to join in on the feeding activity as well. And it could very well be a breeding pair. They are monogamous, these birds. Oh, that one just regurgitated a seed or a stone, which you would have noticed. And they will keep small seeds and stones in their crop to help maul and digest any food that they do feed on. I guess you could kind of equate it to being like putting a small rock in your washing machine to help pound your clothes clean. They've got these small little rocks that are in their crop that will help grind up and break up their prey items. I'm interested to go and have a closer look at exactly what it is that it's feeding on. There's only one way to find out. That they're so small that we can't see very clearly from a distance. A tiny little termites. Are you going to be able to get to them there, Andrew?
Negative.
I'm just going to try and reposition ever so slightly to try and show you. There we go. Now, as Andrew zooms in here, you'll notice some tiny, tiny little termites moving around in that soil. And that's what the hornbill's feeding on. And you can see quite clearly where it's ruffled up. I'm actually just going to get out to show you this. Where it's ruffled up where the old buffalo dung was lying in order to expose the termites. So this is the buffalo dung that the termites have been feeding on, and it was lying here before the bird moved it away, and now it's exposing these termites that have been breaking down the dung. So a great opportunity to see how the nutrient cycle flows from a large animal like even a buffalo, where it's deposited, it's grassy dropping on the road here. The termites have then come in and started doing their job, breaking down the dung to recycle it back into the earth. But now they've been stopped by a hornbill, which has intercepted the termites and started feeding on them. And they too will be therefore deposited back into the earth in the form of a bird dropping later on today. And we'll now continue and leave those termites to try and resolve their housing problem now that the hornbill has broken their house. I'm sure the hornbill is going to fly back and continue to feed on that larder of termites. They're very high in protein, termites. Now, I'm interested to see, we were talking about the rains and some rain that we've experienced in the last week or so, having not had rain for months. And I'm interested to see what other effects it's had. We've just been chatting on about it having a great effect already on the vegetation. We can notice a green carpet now of what was before brown and dead grass. So it's certainly helping the vegetation. But what other animals could we expect to see change or ongoings could we expect? And insects are often brought out with rains, so we can expect to see a few more insects out. I haven't been around for the last week since it rained, so I'm not exactly sure what effects it has had. But I'm almost certain there'll be a few more insects moving about, dung beetles, millipedes. This morning I haven't noticed too many insects, so it's a bit of a blessing. The insects can pester us quite a lot, especially the flies, which Brent and Mark tell me are still around in full force. It just depends on where you are. And because these rains that we are experiencing are quite late in the season, I don't expect it to have huge impacts on the insect life as it does in the summertime. In the summer, after every rain, we get huge increases in both amphibian life as well as insect life. But most of the insects and amphibians have already done their business this summer during the rainy season and are now in all likelihood in a state of dormancy. signal on driving along now can sometimes be a little bit shaky, so it's just a warning in advance. If the signal does get a little bit wobbly, don't go anywhere. We'll pop out near Buffalo's Hook Dam shortly, but the signal will be much better, so don't be alarmed. Go ahead for Scots. Sorry, Craig. Go again with that, please. Copy, thanks very much. Just keep me updated. I'm a little bit fast now. Thank you very much. Okay, now we've got decisions to make. Just got a message from Craig saying that there are some adult buffalo bulls heading towards the lion, and the lion have seen them. Now, I've seen this kind of event unfold before, and it can take a little bit of time for anything to happen, if anything does even happen, but as you can see, I'm turning around and we are heading there. So, as we predicted, there's a strong chance that prey will arrive at the dam, and thankfully Craig was there to inform us. So, we're going to get back there. Like I say, it could take hours before lions even attempt to attack the buffalo, or they may not even attempt to do so. Come in. I've changed my mind, I'm coming back. See you shortly. You would have noticed that we turned around, changed direction on the road that we were heading on, and apologies for the breakup in signal. It's a bit of a bad patch on that specific road. But the good news is that Craig has seen some adult buffalo bulls heading towards Vuyatela Dam, very close to the line, and we are now going to head back in the hope that we get to see some action unfold between the lion and the buffalo. I'm not going to waste any time in getting there, because if something does happen, we obviously don't want to miss it. But what I will warn you in advance is that it could well be that we wait a long time for anything to happen. Once the lion assesses the situation, they may decide not to attack for quite some time, and this is very similar behavior to what we would have seen last time with the lions hunting buffalo, the same lions hunting buffalo at this very same dam. They are very large and dangerous prey to take down, and the lions will be cautious of that. Either way, we couldn't ask for better prospects. Lions hunting buffalo is one of the ultimate showdowns you could witness out here, and it's often the buffalo that get away, and they can often also leave the lion with injuries. So it's dangerous business and exciting business, and we're hopefully going to be involved in it very shortly. Well, let me maybe reiterate that. Not involved, simply allowed to watch what's going on. We'll in no way involve ourselves in the hunt, but we are simply going to be there as spectators. We'll be there in about a minute or two, so just a little bit more shaking around until we get there. Those lions heard us earlier saying that the African Harrier hawk upstaged them, and now they are going to try and redeem themselves by showing us how they too can also hunt. Okay, there's a lot of buffalo around. Interesting stuff. Okay, so I'm just going to stop here for a moment or two just to give you guys an idea of exactly the scenario we are in. As you can see, there are some buffalo at the water's edge, and it's to our left that the lion would be approaching from. There's more buffalo coming down to the dam, and to our left, within this thicker vegetation ahead of us, is where we could expect the lions to be appearing from. That is where we left them lying down, and Craig said they are slowly making their way towards us, or towards the buffalo rather. I can hear a tree squirrel. Alarm calling, which indicates to us that the lion are coming closer. I can also hear a Franklin alarm calling now. So lots of potential prey. You can see all these buffalo, but what it also means for the lion is that it's lots of defense for the actual buffalo. Now they've got lots of friends that are now going to try and protect one another. And if the lion were lucky enough to bring down a buffalo, there's lots of extra buffalo around who can then come and try and chase the lion away. Just wanting to establish where these lions are, and also show you guys exactly where they are so we know exactly what's going on here. It could well be that the lion are fast asleep again, but they have come closer, and they are just on our left here. That was the Franklin that was alarm calling at them. You wouldn't believe it, folks, but we've just got a call from the final control room saying that they've got monkeys alarm calling very insistently very close to the control room, which means that there could be a leopard there. Now, as you can see, the lion are not very close to the buffalo at the moment, and they are asleep, and the final control room is very close to us. So I'm just going to head on up there and see if the people in final control have in fact managed to help us find a leopard. They certainly have helped us by letting know that there are monkeys alarm calling. So we're going to head on up there and have a closer look and see if we can't find the leopard. There's some monkeys alarm calling around Yuri's house, so we are going to check up there quickly. So like I said, we don't want to miss anything with the buffalo and the lion, but I'm fairly confident that nothing's going to happen in the next minute or so. So we'll take this little window of opportunity to search for whatever it could be that these monkeys are alarm calling at. Now the first step in doing this is trying to find the monkeys. Of impala here. Okay. I've heard the monkeys. They just ahead of us, so once we find them we might have a little bit of luck, because we can try and watch where the monkeys are looking, and that will often direct us to where the threat may be, and the threat we are hoping this morning is a leopard. The tricky thing about the scenario we're faced with now is that it sounds like these monkeys are calling from within the actual Nkuhuma camp environs, and we can't go driving through there. It's a lodge, so we'll just keep an eye out in this general area, but it's a difficult place for us to explore because there is a lot of infrastructure and not a lot of roads. Some more francolin have just been chased up here. I'm not sure what it was, possibly the leopard, or whatever these monkeys are alarm calling at. They flew off just from our right. Also stopping now to try and listen to the monkeys, but they seem to have quietened down. Whatever it was that they were alarm calling at may have tried to sneak off as quickly as possible to attract as little attention as possible to itself. Okay. Well, good prospects that there is another predator in the area, and I'm glad that we were given that update from the people in final control, otherwise I wouldn't have been aware of those monkeys. Craig, no sign of anything. The monkeys appear to be in the actual camp, possibly looking at something down in the drainage that leads into the dam. I know the lion are still asleep and not actively seeking out the buffalo, so I'm just going to take a moment to have a look here. For the leopard or whatever it is that these monkeys have been alarm calling at. Yeah, we're closer to these monkeys now. I can't see them, but I can hear them more clearly than I heard them before, so we are close to whatever it is that they are shouting at. And I'm feeling confident that we may find ourselves a leopard shortly. And would you believe that a leopard could be so close to this lion? It really is phenomenal how spoiled we do get out here with game viewing, and this morning is no different. I'm just taking off my jacket now quickly because I feel that things are heating up, literally and also hopefully figuratively, with regards to what we may be looking at. And in the next moment or two, hopefully we will have a leopard in our sights.
Well, last night we did leave them somewhere down there, so...
Exactly. So there was as Andrew just said, there was two young males that were left in this area last night, quarantine in Nkuhuma. So we are going to have a look for them. Texan. Texan, for Scots. Just hoping to get a hold of Texan to make sure that none of his guests had decided to sleep in this morning, as they could well have, and we don't want to interfere with their morning snooze. And we are going to be looking around very close to the Vuyatela rooms. His guests are staying. The fact that the monkeys are still alarm calling is a good sign for us. You may, as we get closer now, and hopefully we'll also be able to see, oh, there they are. I've just seen it for the first time now. You see it up there, Andrew? And now what we're going to do is we're going to stop and watch where they are looking in order to get an idea of hopefully where we might be able to find these leopard. So there you can see the vervet monkey, and it's from this high vantage point that they are so useful in helping us to find animals like leopard. Let's not waste any time. It's very thick here, which makes obviously spotting an animal like a leopard a bit difficult, but at least we are certainly giving ourselves a decent chance by coming out here and exploring. the leopard. Just to reiterate, trust me, I wouldn't leave the line if I thought they were going to try and attack the buffalo. And there is somebody still in that position, keeping an eye on the lion, and they are still not doing anything. So we're not missing out on anything. Where is this leopard? I think I've just found its tracks here. Yeah. So it walked down this riverbed towards us. I've just found its tracks. But where has it decided to hide now? That is the next question we ask. Thankfully, it's not the first time I would have been looking for a leopard in this exact area. So I know a few little shortcuts where we can explore. Just want to make sure that it's not actually in this big dark jackalberry tree that we are busy driving under, as it is a perfect place for leopard to sleep as well as keep their kills if they manage to make any. As we try and look for it, so I'm trying to keep an eye on where the monkeys are still alarm calling. I'm fairly certain they can still see it, and the fact that we saw some very fresh tracks in the riverbed that we were just driving in makes me confident that it is right here. But as you can see, it's quite thick, which makes it tricky for us to spot the animal, if it is lying down, of course. Who knows, maybe it's not just one leopard we're looking for. Maybe Quarantine and Nkuhuma, the two brothers, are still together as they were last night. How wonderful is it that we are responding to an update given from the rest of our team in the final control room, and it was them that heard these monkeys alarm calling initially and attracted our attention to it. And like I say, I'm confident we're going to get lucky. Just decided to loop around. There's a very thick area that I know is impenetrable with the vehicle, so just looped around in the direction that the leopard's tracks were heading in. It was heading downstream in the riverbed towards this dam, and I think we're going to get lucky in the next couple of minutes, so don't go anywhere, because there's a leopard very, very nearby. It's just a matter of finding it now. this very tree where I'm looking up into now, that Nkuhuma, a baboon kill very long ago. There's no sign of the baboon here now. Well, judging from the track that I had a very brief look at in the riverbed, I'm guessing it was a young male, so either Quarantine or Nkuhuma. Whether that was just my subconscious telling me that, because I know that they were here last night, so I'm not too sure, but I'm fairly certain it's one of these two brothers that are just over 2 years old now that we are looking for. Oh. But while we stop and look, try and get this little bird on the ground here. It's well done, Andrew. And he managed to sneak in just in time to show you an African hoopoe flying off. They're really pretty birds. And I was just going to use that opportunity to stop and listen to the bush for a while, because it is so often... Oh, you've got it again there. Sorry, Andrew. I'm busy looking around. I didn't even realize that Andrew had the hoopoo in the monitor.
This is a different one.
Okay, is that a different one now?
Yeah.
And it's got its crest folded up now, but when it... Often as it lands, it will flare that crest open. There we go. And it's looking for small insects. They typically feed on the ground, but will also feed on dead branches like this, trying to extract little insects. I'm just stopping now to try and listen to the bush and hopefully get directed closer to wherever these leopard may be. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe it's not a leopard, but the fact that there was leopard tracks as well as the monkey's alarm calling so persistently, I'm almost certain there's a leopard here somewhere. Try and squeeze through this little gap here. It's going to require a bit of forwards and backwards to get the right angle. There's some thorn trees and other small trees that I don't want to drive over. That should get us through. Natural archway here to deal with. Thanks, Andrew. Just got a question through from Lee in Arkansas. Good morning, Lee, and welcome. Lee's interested to know, how do siblings, which are leopards, remember themselves? Remember other siblings when they meet up after having not seen one another for some time? It's a good question. I'm guessing sight is a major factor. They probably look at all humans and think we're all exactly the same, and it requires us to look very closely at them to be able to differentiate them. But us as humans looking at other humans can clearly tell major differences between one another. So that's probably one of the main features that they'll use, is just simply by looking at another leopard. They'll know whether it's their brother or sister. They've grown up with them for many years, and just like humans can identify other humans well, leopards can probably identify other leopards well just by looking at them. But it is a good question, and it would be interesting to know the exact inner workings of a leopard's mind, but how exactly they figure out that they are siblings, I can only guess is by sight, but a combination of smell as well. And the reactions that they're going to perform when they do see one another after having not seen one another for a long time will always vary and depend on the individual leopards at hand. So there's no one answer that can be given to that question of yours, Lee. But it certainly will be nice to witness these two brothers together over the coming months and see how their relationship does change, as it naturally will as they become older and more competitive for territory. They'll become less and less tolerant of one another. Trying to have one last look around. Because I'm fairly certain this leopard is very close by. There are just lots of hiding places which make it difficult for us to see them. appears that the leopard has evaded us for now. It could pop out at any stage, and if not this morning, again, good prospects for this afternoon's drive. We'll have one last look as we make our way out of this area and back towards the lion. Looks like there are some buffalo that are getting quite close to where we left the lion, and if they get close enough, it may induce the lion to take a shot at them. I'm still scanning, hoping to see this leopard that must be here somewhere, but it's time to give up on the leopard for now and rather head back towards these lions, who may well provide us with some hunting action. There are some buffalo very nearby to them at the moment, so I'm not going to waste any time in getting there. And as a lot of the mysteries we have out here are unsolved, so will be the mystery of what the monkeys were alarm calling at this morning. Even though there were leopard tracks in that area, maybe it wasn't the leopard that they were alarm calling at. We won't know, but it certainly is exciting following up on their alarm calls. Now, as you can see, there's a lot of buffalo still in the waterhole. There's also a few buffalo over here on our left. These ones have already been in the waterhole. This one's been wallowing in the mud. And the lion were very nearby to them. We are going to continue though. I just want to get a view of the lion and establish what exactly they are doing. Hey. That one was interested in giving us a little bit of a chase. And it could be that it can smell the lion, and that's why it's being a little bit aggressive towards us. But it certainly was giving us the once over there. Oh, the lazy lion are still in the same place. And even though they can be formidable hunters, it appears that this morning they are not really being too proactive. And interestingly enough, I've just seen a buffalo straight in front of the vehicle. You'll be able to see a dark grey mass as Andrew zooms in. There you go, you can see its tail wagging. So there's the buffalo, and the lion are right over here. It's very nearby, but even still they are not interested in making an attack. Now that could be because of a number of reasons. They lack the cover of darkness, which is such a useful aid to them when hunting. They'd be able to startle and ambush the buffalo, and a lot easier when it's dark than when it's daytime. And that, coupled with the fact that they're already full-bellied with what we believe is some buffalo meat from a previous kill that they've made. So they're not wanting to take any chances this morning. And even though they'll keep looking in that direction, they'll always be inquisitive, but if they haven't made an advance at this stage, it's unlikely that they'll make one at all this morning. They're obviously not willing to take the risk of a buffalo hunt this morning. We've just got a question through from Colin in Johannesburg. Good morning, Colin, and welcome. Colin's interested to know whether the buffalo have smelt or seen the lion yet. And I certainly think they have smelt the lion. The wind is blowing from the lion, where we are now, towards the buffalo at the dam. And I think that is why the buffalo a little bit earlier kind of approached our vehicle in an aggressive fashion, as it would approach a lion. If it knew it was there, the buffalo will approach and chase lion when they know they're around. And that buffalo certainly did give us that treatment. So it could be that it smelt the lion from where they were at the dam. There's a strong chance that would have happened. Or the other thing that could have happened, Colin, is as we drove past, we may have driven over some lion droppings earlier as we were watching them, or got the scent of lion on the tires of the vehicle, and the buffalo could have smelt that as we drove past. So one of two variables, but they certainly know that these lion are around. And for buffalo, it's not an uncommon scenario to be in. They will spend a lot of their life within the general surroundings of lion, one another, lion and buffalo, because lion will actively hunt buffalo, and it takes many attempts and many hours of following buffalo before the lion get lucky enough to take them down. No, I'm wondering if we're going to be able to get a decent view of these lion. They're all lying in the shade of a quarry thicket, which is going to make for difficult views. Go ahead. A negative. Okay, copy. Thank you very much. Which direction are they heading in? Okay, copy, thanks very much. So, as you can see, there's not much of a view left of these lion. I'm certainly glad that we came back in the hope that they may chase the buffalo, but we didn't have any luck this morning, but may have some luck this afternoon. They're only going to get more hungry, and as soon as it gets dark this evening, we can expect some different behavior from them. So certainly worth tuning in this afternoon and seeing what does unfold with these lion and the buffalo. For now, though, I think it's fairly safe to say that the buffalo have got nothing to worry about. So, because the lion are asleep and the chance of them taking down a buffalo appears to be zero at this stage, we will head back in towards the area where the monkeys were alarm calling, as there could very well be a leopard there. Failing that, I've got a report that there could be some elephant in that area as well. So we don't have much time left, but we're going to try and show you as much as we can in the remaining few minutes. And I think our best option is, like I said, to head back, have one last look for whatever it was that these monkeys were alarm calling at. Thereafter, hopefully track down some elephants. If we don't have any luck, I just got a radio call saying that there were some elephants in this general area. As you can see, the buffalo have got nothing to worry about. And they're very relaxed here. It's interesting to see how the water levels are dropping quite considerably. That little patch of turf that they're lying on now used to be an island. Now it's a peninsula. So the dam levels are dropping. You'll also notice a very interesting bird in the background behind the buffalo that's busy hunting. And that is a saddle-billed stork. Absolutely beautiful species of stork, one of my favorites. And we've been really fortunate with some great viewing of them in the last few weeks. There's a pair of them. This is the male. You'll notice it has small yellow wattles dangling from the base of its red beak, whereas the female will lack those wattles and will have yellow eyes, whereas the male has got the yellow wattles and black eyes. And it's looking for just using my binoculars to scan the vegetation in the area where we feel that the leopard was hiding a little bit earlier, but haven't had any luck seeing it. But we'll continue. Let's see if we can't get a glimpse of these elephants before the end of the show. It's been, starting off with the Nkuhuma Pride of Lion, literally right on our doorstep. Was a very warm welcome back for myself. It's great to start off after being out of the saddle for a few days with some great content. This morning the animals have really been playing their parts, which we should all be grateful for, because it's been a non-stop animal action morning. We've hardly had a moment where we haven't had something interesting in the screen. But the highlight for me has certainly been watching that African Harrier hawk going about its business, trying to excavate whatever it was hiding in that cavity. That was a first for me to share with all of you. And we even managed to sneak into the hyena den site for a short while, which was great. It's an incredible opportunity for us to view these animals, because hyena typically don't allow us to follow them or view them very well or for very long periods of time unless it is at their den site. So we are really grateful that we have got an active den site on the property at the moment. Come in. Mark, I'm just turning onto the 2-track now, just to let you know. A negative from the dam. Copy, thanks. Heating up when the sun does poke out behind the clouds. So I consider us fortunate to have had a nice cool morning. We're in luck, and the report from Mark, who's headed out to try and help us find some animals, has been a good one. And there are some elephants just ahead of us, so it's a little bit thick, and I'm going to just make sure we don't interfere with them too much, just as we establish their mood and behavior. So bear with us for a moment, but we will get some better views of them once we've got a better idea of how exactly they're feeling this morning. There's a beautiful big cow amongst them, and she's about to pop out into a small opening. And you can just see her ivory dangling below this tree. And is she going to give us a bit of attitude? She's certainly thinking about it. Hello, old lady. She's not sure about us exactly yet, but I'm sure if we just stay here and mind our own business, she'll resume with her morning without getting too flustered by us. Again, maybe she can smell the lions that we've been driving in and around, and maybe that's why her behavior is a little bit suspicious of us. You see how she keeps picking up her trunk and smelling, and that's why I think that it could be that she smells those lion. And it's incredible how good their senses of smell are, these animals. They really do make us feel quite hopeless with regards to our senses, as theirs are just far, far better than ours. Now, there's a young bull that's just going to pop out in front of us here, and I think he may give us a bit of attitude, so I'm going to ask Andrew to stick with him just for a moment or two. As it's about to cross the road, and I think when it does cross the road, we are going to get a little bit of adolescent attitude. Nope. Oh, there we go. A little bit. And some tiny babies running off in the background. Awesome. Well then, and it looks like that one in front there actually was in the unfortunate situation where its mother may have pooped on its head, because there was a big stain running down its forehead that looked like that of what could only be elephant dung. So it got about a 2 or 3 kg bonus of its mother's poop on its head, but that I guess happens from time to time if you are a baby elephant spending a lot of time in and around the ankles of your mother. Here comes another youngster crossing the road. This one might give us some attitude. No, just a bit nervous to have been left behind. Well, this is absolutely wonderful. Thanks very much, Mark. And I'm just trying to think what our best option will be now to try and get you some views of the little youngsters. It's tricky because it is so thick in here. What to do? I do fear that view was as good as it's going to get of the youngsters this time, and I don't want to chase them and cause any unnecessary stress to the herd, and also indirectly with us, because once the herd gets stressed, then they will take their stress out on us, and then we too will become stressed. So we are going to avoid all stress this morning by giving them their space. I'm just going to try and get a decent view where we can show you them one last time before we close out this morning's drive. Well, what a morning it's been, and so happy to have finished off on this herd of elephants. And like I said earlier and throughout the drive, I guess, great prospects for this afternoon. The Nkuhuma Pride of Lion are at WildEarth Dam. There's a lot of buffalo there, so anything could happen with them this afternoon. And also potentially an effort in and around the camp, also close to the lions, so that's something to look forward to. Here's some elephant. The hyena den site was active. It's been an absolutely wonderful morning. So, like I say, it could well continue with that streak. Oh, there's another youngster that Andrew spotted. That could be the unlucky one that got pooped on. a minute left, folks, and I'd like to say a very, very, very big thank you from myself, as well as Andrew, and to Tara and Nikki in the final control room. It's been a great morning. Thanks so much for joining us. Thanks so much for sending all of your questions through. Sorry if we didn't get to answer all of them, but there's been so much action that the animals have been doing a lot of the speaking. So we'll see you next time.